So today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating and honestly a pretty radical idea from Fred Dodson's book, Parallel Universes of Self. The whole idea is this: what if we are fundamentally in charge of our own reality? Now, I know that might sound a little out there, but stick with me. Let's take a look at the tools he talks about for turning what we want into what we actually experience.
But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had this happen where you learn about something new? I don't know, a new word, a specific type of car, anything, and then all of a sudden it feels like you're seeing and hearing it absolutely everywhere? For example, the author tells the story about watching the movie Tintin, and for the rest of that week, he started seeing wire fox terriers, the same kind of dog as Snowy in the movie, just everywhere. It feels like some kind of weird cosmic coincidence, right? But it's actually just your brain doing its job. So what's really going on here? Well, it all comes down to this really powerful, kind of hidden filter that's built right into your brain. It's called the reticular activating system, or you can just call it the RAS. The best way to think about it is like a bouncer or a gatekeeper for your mind. It sits there filtering all the information coming in from your senses, and it only lets through what it thinks is important to you. So those wire fox terriers, they were always there. Your brain was just ignoring them. But after you watched the movie, you basically told your RAS, hey, pay attention to these, and it started letting them through the gate. Okay, so if our brain has this powerful filter, what are the implications of that? Well, this is where we get to the core idea of the book, this whole concept of creating your own reality. On the one hand, you've got the way most of us are taught to see things. The world is just out there. It's fixed, it is what it is, and we just react to it. But the book's view is totally different. It suggests the world outside of us is more like a mirror. It's constantly reflecting back to us what we believe and what we focus on inside. So if you change your internal state, you can actually change your external experience. And this quote from the book just nails it. Reality isn't just one solid thing. It all depends on your viewpoint. A movie can be just a bunch of pixels on a screen, or it could be actors just doing a job, or it can be a deeply moving story that changes you. By choosing your perspective, you can literally trade a reality you don't like for one you prefer. And that brings us to what might be the most, let's say, controversial idea in the entire book. It's something that really turns everything we've been taught about goals completely upside down. We're all taught that to get what we want, we have to hustle, we have to take action, right? Well, this book claims that action is actually secondary. The real secret, the shortest, most direct path to achieving something, is to start at the finish line. It's to feel and experience the world right now as if your goal has already been accomplished. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This sounds a whole lot like wishful thinking. I get it, but let's look at a real-world story from the book that shows this very principle in action. So, check this out. A guy decides he wants to become a voice actor for cartoons. He has absolutely zero connections, no clue where to even begin, but he fully commits to the idea. Just 1 week later, 1 week, he's at a party, and he starts chatting with some random guy at the bar. And who does that guy turn out to be? A voice actor. Unbelievable, right? And then that actor offers to mentor him and introduce him to his own agent. So was that just a wild coincidence, or was it his focused intention changing the reality that showed up for him? So, how can you start playing around with this stuff yourself? Well, the book offers a really simple, practical exercise. Let's call it your reality to-do list. It's called the intention list. And the instructions couldn't be simpler. You just write down a list of things you want to happen. But here's the trick. You write them in the past tense, as if they've already come true. And take a look at the mix of things on this example list. You've got something totally normal, like I got my hair cut, sitting right next to something pretty extraordinary, like I had an out-of-body experience. And that mix is the whole point of the exercise. See, the reason you mix the simple stuff with the seemingly impossible stuff is to start blurring the lines in your own mind. You're trying to confuse that distinction between what feels realistic and what feels unrealistic. You're essentially retraining your reticular activating system, that gatekeeper in your brain, to stop filtering out opportunities that you used to think were completely out of reach. All right, before you run off and start writing your own list, there is a super important ingredient to making this work. And of course, a few common roadblocks you should probably watch out for. The energy you bring to this is absolutely everything. And the book has this amazing line that sums it all up. When you stop chasing the world chases you. So here's the crucial part. This is not about desperately wanting something or trying to force an outcome. Let's call it the magic, it happens when you feel good, when you're lighthearted about it, when you feel energized, and when you can totally let go of whether it happens or not. It's all about commitment without expectation.
But yeah, there's a catch. As you start to shift your focus and your reality, you might run into some resistance. People around you might not like the new you and try to pull you back. Old beliefs from your childhood about who you're supposed to be can pop up. And let's be real, society isn't always thrilled with ideas that challenge the way things are.
So, whether you look at this as just a practical psychological trick to retrain your focus, or you see it as something more, it leaves us with one really powerful question to think about. What if your reality is way more negotiable than you've ever been led to believe?